Bernauer Straße in Berlin is a lively and colorful neighborhood in the German capital. But a generation ago, it was part of the Death Strip, a no-man's land created by the Berlin Wall. Anyone who tried to escape to West Berlin was shot by East German border guards on patrol. But that's all in the past. I love living here, she says, because I have so many friends. Today's Bernauer Straße is a melting pot, with Eastern and Western Germans living alongside citizens from around the world. Angelika Richter tells us she's counted families of 8 nationalities in her apartment house. 18 children, 22 adults, she says, and we all love each other. But this is what residents saw in August 1961 as construction of the wall began. Neighbors, friends, and whole families were divided by a concrete scar. Apartment blocks on one side of Bernauer Straße were in the eastern sector, directly on the border with West Berlin. Windows were turned into brick walls as the facades became part of the wall. Just one step away, this sidewalk was in West Berlin. In the mid-1970s, the apartment buildings were demolished as the East German police state refined its security system. They planted landmines and spring gun devices, anti-tank barriers along with paved strips for jeep patrols, and every few hundred meters, the infamous watchtowers. All part of an effort to discourage illegal emigration. Still, many escape attempts were made here because the death strip was relatively narrow. Today, the old patrol path remains, running between construction sites and pricey apartments. There's lots of room to play. It's a favorite place for Angelika's son, Jimmy. She's from Eastern Germany and was living in Dresden when the wall fell 24 years ago. The patrol path lies behind her apartment, with Bernauer Straße out in front. From her rooftop terrace, she has a magnificent view of what used to be the capital of East Germany. Her apartment building sits directly on the former no-man's land. Today, the central location makes this area prime real estate.
Hallo. Komm rein.
We pay a visit to Angelika Richter and her family. Her husband hails from a village in Bavaria in what used to be West Germany. They have 2 children. Jimmy is the younger one. Angelika says the construction of her new home was a real adventure. She visited the site every day with her older son, Johnny. As the basement was being dug out, they discovered the foundation of the building that once stood on this property.
Es ist doch echt wie eine archäologische Ausgrabung.
It was like an archaeological dig, she says.
Hier sieht man, glaube ich, sogar noch so die Wasser oder
you can see the water and heating connections and the pipes.
Ofenrohre oder
Johnny.
Das ist der Johnny. Genau.
That's Johnny, she adds. Angelika, Hans, and the boys introduce us to the neighbors, Anke and Daniel. They have 2 children as well. Another neighbor, Annabelle, is also there with her daughters. They moved into the neighborhood about a year ago. The locals agree it was a good idea to breathe new life into the former death strip. They also admit that real estate prices in Bernauer Straße were rock bottom when they bought this property, and they had no idea just how hard it would be to build here. It was 5 years before they could move in. The old border patrol path was a particular problem. Building inspectors wouldn't allow the construction crane to be parked there.
Und dann habe ich eigentlich erst begonnen, so richtig darüber nachzudenken, wo wir eigentlich.
Daniel says it took a while to realize the true significance of what they were doing. He says the family came to terms with an unusual situation, building in a place that was stigmatized for decades. But he reasons that wasn't always the case. Apartment houses existed here before World War II and were torn down when the wall became further entrenched. This empty space was left over, he says. And that's why he thinks it was reasonable to rebuild family homes. Angelika adds that they experience the history of this place every day. The past has become part of their daily life in this day and age.
Diese Vergangenheit. Und gleichzeitig leben wir unser Leben in unserer Zeit 2013.
This was Bernauer Straße in the mid-1960s. No sign of life, just a cold concrete wall dominating what had been once a lively residential district. The stately Versöhnungskirche, or Reconciliation Church, was demolished in 1985 to give soldiers in the watchtowers unimpeded views of the border. Today, the Berlin Wall Memorial has been erected as a place of remembrance. A chapel of reconciliation sits where the old church once stood. Inside, prayers are said for those who were killed trying to escape from totalitarian East Germany. Jörg Hildebrand is the son of a former pastor at the Reconciliation Church. He spent his childhood on Bernauer Straße, right on the border. His family moved when the wall was built. He tells us it feels strange to walk along Bernauer Straße now. There's no wall, no police demanding documents, no one denying people entrance. It's amazing, he says, that he can stand here now free to say and think whatever he wants. Hildebrand is a frequent visitor to the Berlin Wall Memorial. He says it must be hard to imagine for those who never experienced the wall firsthand, but this place contains powerful reminders of how locals dealt with the stark division between East and West. For example, some East Germans even dug tunnels below ground to try and escape to the West. Some lost their friends and loved ones, while others found the loves of their lives. Hildebrand shows us a place that played an important role in his life, Bernauer Straße number 2. This, he says, is the address of the woman who would become his wife. Here's her bedroom, the living room, and the kitchen. The Memorial Center has recorded the story of Regine and Jörg Hildebrand for posterity. Hildebrand shows us a photograph of him and his brother looking out towards Bernauer Straße number 10, from East Berlin to West Berlin, from one country to another. They could still converse with their friends, he explains, even though the wall was already under construction. Back at Angelika's place, she's about to meet with the rest of the property owners. We've invited Jörg Hildebrand.
Wir freuen uns sehr, Sie hier begrüßen zu können. Ja, sehr schön. Das ist der Herr Hildebrand. Und der Herr
She informs the children that Mr. Hildebrand will tell them stories about the wall and the place they've chosen to build their new homes.
unser Haus gebaut haben.
This place and its history has brought together children and adults, Eastern and Western Germans, and citizens from around the world who now live here.
Die Mauer wird zum Symbol der Teilung in der Welt.
Moving images from a bygone era help to bring the past back to life.
Da kommt es zu Ausschreitungen an der verhassten Grenze.
Das war direkt bei uns.
That place is right around the corner, she says. This is Bernauer Straße in the 1960s, before the apartment buildings were torn down. This film clip shows a drama that captured global attention, a 77-year-old woman jumping to freedom. It's one of the countless stories over nearly 40 years. Then, on November 9th, 1989, everything changed.
Und ich mit meiner Frau.
Hildebrand tells us that he finally walked with his wife through the Brandenburg Gate and embraced in a kiss right there that he'll never forget. It was overpowering, he says. We never thought we'd see this in our lifetime. One guest wonders what he thinks about all the building projects in what used to be the no man's land. Hildebrandt responds that the wall can't remain everywhere, that history is fleeting. He adds it was clear that the wall would eventually fall, and he considers himself lucky to have witnessed the event firsthand. On that historic evening, he hoped that in a quarter century nothing would be left of it. One memory will never fade, those shot and killed trying to flee. For many, Bernauer Straße was the best hope for escaping to freedom. The children are impressed. For them, it's a story of adventure, and they want to figure out how many bed sheets it would take to rappel from a window to the ground.
Guckst du mal, ob Steffi drückt? So, wo ist jetzt brauche ich dich, falls sich die Kinder dranhängen? Sind gleich gucken.
Angelika counts 5 sheets in all. Everyone is surprised. They thought it would be many more. But 5 is the number because 1 is needed to anchor the rest of them. Someone asks if she could imagine rappelling down the side of the building herself. Yes, she replies. Bernauer Straße has been transformed from its former status as a death strip and a symbol of the division between East and West Berlin. But that's all in the past. What counts for the children is the here and now.